Eutrophication. So what do you mean by eutrophication? So it is actually usually made up of two words, like one is eu and next one is trophic. So what do you mean by eu? Eu means true, or eu means well, and trophic means nourishment or nutrients. So in simple way, how we can say means what will happen in this process means usually water bodies, let's say it can be the lakes, or it can be the ponds, or it can be the tanks, or it can be even the oceans also. So all the water bodies will get enriched with the nutrients. Okay, so eutrophication in simple manner, it is nothing but it is the process of enrichment of water bodies, enrichment of water bodies by with nutrients. Okay, so that is known as eutrophication process. Is that clear? So then here, what are the nutrients that are commonly used, or what are the normal nutrients that are involved in the process of eutrophication? That is another important aspect that you have to learn. In very simple manner, you remember that it is nothing but enrichment of water bodies, any water body, with nutrients. So here we are using the word nutrients. So what are the common nutrients that causes eutrophication? So can you say? Yes, is nitrates and phosphates. So remember, these are the two important nutrients. So you have to remember, like for example, if the question is with respect to which of the following gases or which of the following following sources cause acid rain, that question has been asked. So that was like nitrogen oxides and sulfur oxides, like that. And next time they may pick eutrophication and they may ask which of the following nutrients will cause the eutrophication. That can be one probable question. So likewise, so remember these two pollutants. So what are these two? Two are nothing but here you remember nitrates and phosphates. So now can you able to recollect that? Okay, so nitrates and phosphates. So remember these two. And now here we are saying that these water bodies are getting enriched with nutrients. And in what ways? How this enrichment may happen? This is another important aspect that we have to learn. So how enrichment may happen? So when we talk from the perspective of enrichment, so how this may happen? So it may happen in two ways. One is through natural ways, okay, and other one is through human activities or through anthropogenic ways. So one is natural methods, or other one is like through anthropogenic activities. That is human activities. So in natural way, how this process will happen means over the period of time, let's say in a span of millennium, like let's say for example, like so for over the period of time or over the years, usually in the water bodies there would be accumulation of minerals or accumulation of organic matter takes place. And these minerals and organic matter will possess some of the nutrients like the phosphates and the nitrates. So such kind of accumulation will lead to enrichment of the water bodies naturally. Are you getting that? So such process of accumulation of minerals and organic matter over the period of time will help in the process of growing of plants, phytoplanktons, algae, all those things. So such a condition is known as natural eutrophication. Okay, natural eutrophication, that is enrichment of water bodies by natural ways. So this process is also known as natural aging. Natural aging of water body. So if it is lake, natural aging of lakes. Can you able to understand? So over the period of time, sometimes lakes may get vanish. Lakes may get converted into marshy areas. From marshy areas, they may get converted into further wetlands likewise. So this is how the lakes may get vanish. So that is natural eutrophication process. And there are natural eutrophication is the reason of secondary suppression. Yes, it is due to. As you said that we get wanted to marshy, it is the reason of Uh, no, secondary succession. Succession means their life should not exist, and the life has to be begun freshly. But here it is not the case. Here life would be continuing, but there would be conversion from one form of ecosystem into other form. Simply, lake ecosystem would be converted into marshy ecosystem. Likewise. So we cannot call it as a secondary succession. Secondary succession, it's altogether different. Like you remember, like after forest fire, then everything will vanish, and in that land if there is again life rises, then that would be an example for secondary succession. So we'll try to learn about secondary succession, but we cannot apply that to this process here. Okay, so that is one thing. So then what kind of anthropogenic activities will cause eutrophication? So can you say any anthropogenic activities that may cause enrichment of water bodies with nitrates and phosphates? Dumping of waste, that means wastewater or sewage water. Sewage water may flow into water body. Then any other things? Yes, oil spills may not be, but in very hydrocarbons, other hydrocarbons may lead to that. Then any other thing, common thing? Like think about agricultural runoff. So in agricultural runoff, what we will do? We will use various chemicals like pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, and all those things, and which includes the nitrates and phosphates. So one of the chief anthropogenic source or man-made cause for eutrophication is like flow of agricultural runoff into the water bodies. So this is the single most source. And other thing is that we will have various farms, like let's say poultry farms or dairy farms, and in poultry farms we will add food, and there would be a lot of excretory material of these birds and all those things, which again consists of the uric acid and phosphorus likewise. So farms like let's say poultry farms or animal feed. So all these things are nothing but the anthropogenic sources which will cause the anthropogenic causes for occurrence of eutrophication. So such kind of eutrophication is known as cultural eutrophication. It is called as cultural eutrophication. Okay, so these are two types of eutrophication: natural eutrophication and cultural eutrophication. Can you able to remember that now? So various things, like you apply various things wherever nitrates and phosphates would be there, and whatever the sources that leads to water bodies, they are nothing but the causes for cultural eutrophication. So this is basically what is eutrophication. Okay, now what is how and what is the process of eutrophication, and what are the possible likely consequences? That is another important thing that we have to understand. So now, did you understand till here? So this is, it takes a lot of time. So natural eutrophication, it's not a problem for us, but cultural eutrophication is the problem for us, because it is accentuated by the human activities. Can you able to understand? So we are much concerned with the cultural eutrophication. So first let us take the case like there can be agricultural runoff. So agricultural runoff might be there. So this agricultural runoff will consist of nitrates and phosphates and all such kind of chemicals. So they would be generally what they would be done. So they would be liberated into water bodies. So this flushing of this agri runoff into water bodies, it helps in nutrient enrichment. So now there would be plenty of nutrients like nitrates and phosphates that would be available in that water body. Okay, so due to good amount of availability of nutrients, obviously it helps further in overproduction of the various living organisms in that particular water body. So what will happen? There would be excessive growth of various things like, let's say, phytoplanktons. Okay, so can we expect presence of phytoplanktons? or algae. One of the common example for phytoplankton is, common thing we can say is algae, phytoplanktons, algae, or any other with plants also may grow. So likewise, so there would be excessive growth of these things in the water bodies. Okay, so that will happen. Now, you remember, you try to observe what may happen next to this. Now there is excessive growth of phytoplanktons, algae and plants. So now, due to excessive growth, what may happen? There would be more demand on the available oxygen. Now every water body will have sufficient presence of some oxygen into that. So that that oxygen that is present inside the water body, that is nothing but dissolved oxygen. So due to this excessive growth, what will happen? There would be more demand for dissolved oxygen. So slowly what will happen? Due to more demand, so this dissolved oxygen will get depleted. So depletion of dissolved oxygen will occur. Okay, so this is one thing. So this is one process which creates a kind of hypoxic conditions. Hypoxic conditions means what? Yes, hypo means less, oxic means oxygen. So low concentration of oxygen would be present in the water bodies. That condition is known as hypoxic condition. So here, excessive growth will lead to creates hypoxic conditions. Such conditions, you remember, this is one thing. And apart from this, now due to depletion of dissolved oxygen, what will happen? Availability of oxygen will go down and the number of organisms are more. So availability of oxygen to all the organisms will get less. So whichever the organism that has got sufficient oxygen, it will survive and all other organisms will die. So due to death of organisms, living organisms, what living organisms means? Any of these things. So this, what may happen is there would be growth of organic matter. Organic matter will get more. So more accumulation of organic matter will take place. Okay, so now organic matter has been accumulated. Then what would be the next sequential process that will happen? Yes, so now what will happen? This organic matter has to be decomposed and microorganisms will work for that process. Now what will happen sequentially? For decomposition of this organic matter, what will happen? There would be rise in BOD, biological oxygen demand. So what is BOD? The amount of oxygen that is required to decompose the organic matter. Okay, so rise in BOD will occur. So for decomposition process. So more amount of oxygen, further whatever the oxygen that is available in the water will get further depleted for decomposition process. And due to this process, what will happen further? So due to this process, there would be further, yes. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a surface phenomena. Photosynthesis is a surface phenomena. And where would be the decomposition process and organic matter would be accumulated? It will happen in the bottom portions, or we'll say aphotic zones are at the bottom portion, benthic portions it will happen. So usually circulation of this oxygen would be very less because we are discussing with the static water bodies. Like let's say lake it's a static water body, it's not a flowing water body. So circulation would be less likewise. So that is one thing. So here due to this what will happen? Oxygen will get further depleted and this further depletion leads to formation of a very low concentration zones, and those low concentration zones are nothing but the dead zones, or they are also known as biological deserts. Biological deserts we will call. Okay, so this is one. So here you remember, here we have said that excessive growth of phytoplanktons or algae would be there. So here, if we talk from the perspective of algae, this excessive or increased production of algae, in common parlance, in common terminology, it is called as algal blooms. Good, it is called as algal blooms. So algal blooms is one thing. So algal blooms when happen, so obviously algal blooms will block the surface of the water body. So when algal blooms will block, so penetration of sunlight also will harmful. Okay, so you just see you can see when you see in some of the water bodies, you can see this kind of formation of the lakes or water bodies. You can see like bluish occurrence of something on the water. Have you ever saw this directly? So bluish appearance of water bodies. So these are nothing but algal bloom. This is the algal bloom basically. So this is the process of this occurs due to the process of eutrophication. Okay, so that means this water body has already been enriched with the water, and now this algae will cover entirely on the top of the water, so it does not allow the water to go inside. So due to non-penetration of the water further, so whatever the bodies that are living organisms that are present inside the water, they cannot further grow for the process of photosynthesis. So thus further reduces or impacts the productivity of that water body. Okay, for every ecosystem there would be some sort of productivity, like primary productivity, secondary productivity, likewise. So ecological productivity will also be hampered likewise. So that is another issue. So that will happen. So this is the common process what will happen with respect to eutrophication. So then what are the common effects? What are the consequences of this eutrophication? So first effect is that we have a natural lake till now. Now what will happen, it will leads to loss of fresh water lakes, and here what will happen, one important effect is that conversion of fresh water lake into marshy area or marshland. Marshland means what? Again, marshland means swampy area or waterlogged area with the soil and all those things. So it becomes a waterlogged area rather than becoming rather than being a freshwater lake. So that is one thing. Conversion of freshwater lake into marshy areas. That is one effect. Over the course of time that may happen. So then next thing, next important thing what it may happen, it is the excessive formation of growth of algae. So algal blooms and subsequent issues that are arising out of algal blooms. Okay, so algal blooms will lead to further aspects like decrease in DO levels, increase in BOD levels. You remember, don't get confused. Decrease in DO will happen and increase in BOD. So BOD is a measure of pollutant. It is the amount of oxygen that is required to decompose the organic matter, that is BOD. So BOD levels will rise. So that is one thing. And due to both of this, what will happen? It eventually forms the dead zones. Now, did you understand what are dead zones? Areas with very low oxygen levels. So that is dead zones where life cannot be sustained because of non-availability of oxygen. So that is one thing. So that is one thing. Now here we are saying that algal blooms are there, and what do you think? These algal blooms are beneficial or these are harmful? Harmful? So in simple way, in general way to say, some of the algal blooms would be harmful and some will not harm the water body. Harm in the sense, some algal blooms will especially release some of the toxins into the water body. Okay, so these toxins, like there would be some toxins like neurotoxins, that means which are toxic to the nervous system, or hepatotoxins. Hepatotoxins, what is hepatic tissues? Yes, yes, hepatitis. Have you heard of hepatitis? So what is hepatitis? Is inflammation to liver, that is hepatitis. So here what will happen? Hepatotoxins means toxins that will damage the liver. So hepatotoxins. So such kind of toxins would be released into water body, and they will be harmful to the other organisms. Like, let's say these toxins would be consumed by the fish, and there is every possibility that that fish might be consumed by other organisms and other animals, like, let's say, humans we may consume. And there was an instance of shellfish poisoning. Shellfish poisoning. So this was an instance which has occurred due to the eutrophication, due to the algal blooms. And such kind of those algal blooms which are harmful, or they will which releases these kind of toxins, or which increases the toxicity of the water body, they are nothing but harmful algal blooms. Harmful algal blooms. So in short form, they are called as HABs. HABs, harmful algal blooms. So this is one thing. Okay, so not all algal blooms are harmful. Some are harmful because they releases these toxins into water bodies. Okay, so they are detrimental to other living organisms or other animals. So that is one thing. So here, can you name or can you give any example for any harmful algal blooms which were in use? Any algal blooms? No, water hyacinth is not a harmful algal bloom. Water hyacinth is, in turn, it is one thing that is used to, that will grow as invasive alien species. So you can take the name of tides. Yes, one example is like the red tides. Okay, so you remember one thing would be like red tides. Have you heard of red tides? Red tides, it's not a tide actually. So what is red tide means? Red tides have usually before 1800s we used to have red tides in the Gulf of Mexico region. So can you able to recollect the Gulf of Mexico region? So in the Gulf of Mexico we have Florida Bay of Florida. So off the coast of Florida, so we have recently witnessed this red tide phenomena. So what are red tides? Red tides are a type of harmful algal blooms. Harmful algal blooms that are occurred over the coast of the Florida or Bay of Mexico. So there, what has happened? So these harmful algal blooms have been developed due to a kind of red algae called Carenia brevis. Carenia brevis. It's a kind of red algae. So due to excessive growth of Carenia brevis red algae, entire surface of that coast has become red, and thus we have named it as red tides. So red tides is not normal tide. Red tide is algal bloom. It's a type of algal bloom. And why it has occurred? It has occurred due to a Carenia brevis. Carenia brevis, it's what is it? It's a red algae, and it's a kind of phytoplankton, and it's a kind of dinoflagellate. So try to remember all of these things. Okay.